Folks, we'll get started here in about 2 minutes. Hey folks, welcome to the webinar today. My name is Matt Frazier, and this is not me in this picture on this screen. I will say hello here on video here real quick and say thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays to everyone. Hopefully you have a little extra time in the office and this is a good time for you to engage with a webinar like this. We're really excited about sharing this content with you, and we'll get started here in just a second. So I'm gonna stop my video and we will get started here. My name is Matt Frazier and I am the CEO of Frazier Fundraising, and we've got a couple of our folks on the line as well, Chris Taft and Jason Mitchell, and they're going to be sharing a little bit here as we continue. We are sharing slides. I see a number of you that are on the phone. So if you can, the link will get you into the Zoom conference. I've got everyone muted here. You can if you have questions, you can use the chat function, and then we're going to open it wide up at the end for any questions you have. I assume there's going to be quite a few here. There's some pretty exciting content that we're sharing related to major donor acquisition. And so let's get started. My background, I have been in the fundraising world since about 2000. So it's been quite a while here, about 18 years. And I started a company in Dallas in 2001 called the Pursuant Group. And we ended up building a very large agency that did work that was multi-channel work for all kinds of different organizations, from local churches all the way through major universities, healthcare systems, those type of organizations, really the gamut. And so we've developed things over the years, and we continue to leverage technology to help us do a better job of helping our clients. And so we want to share with you a concept that's been very successful for us, but we've even added more to it, and we want to share that with you today. So it gives you some ideas about how you can leverage these strategies in your own organization. So let me jump in here with our slides. All right. Okay, so this is the big question I want to ask at the start of our webinar today. If we're talking about major donor acquisition, that's actually, it's either heresy in the marketplace or it is an oxymoron. I'm not sure which one it is, but we don't do major donor acquisition, right? We do new donor acquisition. And so we created this provocative title to really talk about this idea of what if there was a way to make major donors come to you? And this is a pretty aggressive statement, this big magnet bringing folks to you. But really, it's more about self-selection. How do we get major donors to essentially say, hey, I'm ready, I'm interested, this is the right timing, and help them self-select? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this webinar. It's all about How do we stimulate that self-selection of the right people and help attract major donors into conversation? And so we're going to talk about that. And there's some really neat strategies that we've utilized over the years and some new ones that we are testing. And let's jump into that. I want to first start with fundraising myths. Obviously, we've got a range of different folks watching this webinar, listening to it. And so many of you know these myths, but I want to say them from the beginning because for someone that hasn't been in fundraising very long, it's a very common thing to think of. If everyone gave us a little, we'd have a lot. And I think that that is one of the most common myths in fundraising, is that everyone thinks, well, you know, it's like the iTunes store. If everybody bought our app for 99 cents and we got, you know, 30 million people to do it, we'd have a lot of money. And that's actually a myth, especially about major gift fundraising, is that if everyone gave us a little, we'd have a lot. That's actually not true. Certainly, I guess, fundamentally it's true if everyone did give us a little, but it works from the wrong premise. And this actually leads us to the second myth, which is a lot of people in fundraising and into the development world, they see asking for money as taking something from the donor. And especially if you're in the ministry world, or it may be, you know, universities or a cause-related activity, you have to understand that asking for money is actually a service to the donor if you're doing it right. It's not a debit from someone's account, it is a credit. And what I mean by that is, let me ask you this question about your organization and your mission. Are the people that you serve worthy to be served? The work that you do transform lives? Is it important? And the answer to all of those things is yes, of course. So you're not asking for money for yourself, you're actually advocating for the people that you serve. And in a way, it's a disservice to them if you don't do a good job. And so this myth about if everyone gave us a little, we'd have a lot is actually is an issue, because we're basically saying, I don't want to bother you because I feel like when I ask you for money, I'm taking something away from you. And it's not a debit, it's actually a credit. We know that it's better to give than to receive, right? There's a joy that comes from giving. There's a blessing that comes from giving, but it's not the giving that's transactional. A lot of times, the reason that people don't like fundraising or feel uncomfortable with it is because they're asking for something that they either don't believe in or don't believe that the donor is ready to believe it, if you will. And I see this a lot. But when we shift that paradigm and we dispel these myths, and we say, okay, asking for money, asking for support is actually a service to the donor, especially in major, because if you're thinking about major gift giving, it's usually legacy. People want to accomplish something with their giving. And so you're actually giving them an opportunity to accomplish some goal that they have. And there's a lot of different reasons that people give. So I want to talk about some key principles before we jump into the specifics of a solution and a strategy and how these things work and how you can leverage them. Because there's some key principles I think that are really important to couch this in. And it's really this fact. I always ask the question, who's footing the bill for your organization? And I don't care if you're an enormous university or you're a very, very small nonprofit organization. When it comes to campaign work and major gift work, 80% plus of all campaign revenue comes from less than 250 donors. We do a lot of data analysis for clients. And I was just, you know, I'm not shocked anymore, but we were reviewing a major nonprofit organization, and we found that there was about 152 households that made up 75% of all revenue for the year. And if you think about that, that's not just campaign work, that's the organization. And then if you break it down to what we call key multi-year donors, people who've given 3 times or more, it's this amazing, I mean, that's where that's who's paying the bill, if you will. It's not the new donors that come through annual fund, even though that's important, but it's people who have given multiple times, over 3 times, and it's people that are invested, but it's a very small group of people. And so when you think about campaign work, in which we focus a lot on with major donors, is that we realize that I don't care if you're $1 billion campaign, a $3 billion campaign, or you're doing a $250,000 raise, it's coming from less than 250 people. And in many cases, it's coming from under 100 people. And so as a major gift development officer or somebody that's planning in campaign, you know that this is true, but it's really important as a principle. And just to prove this out, this is just an example of a $5 million campaign chart of gifts. Whether I go, taller or higher with this or go wider, at the end of the day, this is a gift pyramid for 16 people to give $5 million. And in many cases, that's why campaign work and major gift work is actually very large gifts and very few people. And that's what I think is amazing, is that, if you can imagine raising $1 billion for an institution over the course of 5 to 10 years and realizing that it comes from less than 250 people, it's interesting work. And so we're going to be talking about what that major gift work looks like and how we can leverage technology and new strategies to be able to get donors to come to us. This is another principle that's important. I think it's probably the most important thing I'll share. And that is, vision raises big dollars and need raises small dollars. So let me explain that. People that are giving major gifts want to do something with their money that's significant. Obviously major gift opportunities of, putting your name on a building or a room or, building something as far as capital projects. But when you get into major gift work, that the vision of the organization is what the big dollars are given to, because it's a legacy type of giving. People want to accomplish something with their giving. And typically it's not, people don't generally eat off the menu. They're getting a la carte type of things. And we're going to talk specifically about that. But many times, if you look at annual funds and mid-level giving, need drives a lot of that. And, obviously when we need something, people step up, but generally those aren't things where, I've got a really, I sold a business or inherited money, or, it's my estate planning. People want to direct those dollars to something that's going to have an impact for a long period of time. And so organizations that don't have a vision, and I don't mean you don't have a grand vision, I mean you haven't articulated in a specific plan that vision. I'm on the board of my children's Christian school, and this is one of the biggest issues we run into, is that we're doing bake sales and golf outings and events and banquets and all those kind of things, and they're wondering, why are we worn out, number one, and why are we not raising a lot of money? And why is it that the institution down the road is getting a $20 to $50 million gift from people in our community? And a big part of that is related to vision, right? And being able to articulate it. People that have earned significant dollars or are shepherding or stewarding significant dollars want to make sure that the places that they put their dollars are, one, going to stick around, and two, have a substantial vision and plan. And so I look at it a lot like business investing. Is that, would you invest in a new company that didn't have a trajectory? They didn't know where they wanted to go and how they were going to get there. And was that plan believable? So those are the components, and it's really, really important. So we take organizations, we help them not only craft those vision, but articulate that vision in a way that connects with donors so we can attract new major donors. We're going to talk about that specifically. The second principle I want to talk about is this concept that people support what they help to create. You've probably heard this 100 different times, but I can't emphasize it enough. Most major donors, for the most part, I would not say, somebody that's, buying off the menu, if you will, is not who I'm talking about. But I would say the majority of proposals that are put together for people that are at the top of the pyramid, that are looking at legacy type of giving, they literally, we're crafting the solutions for them in a custom proposal. And we want them to be engaged in a way that they're creating part of this. We may have, engineering school. We may have a new school of business. We may have some big initiative to share the gospel across the world, but there's a participation that happens in that process. And so when we engage the donor in that and help create together, it really actually is very good for the effectiveness of our major gift fundraising. Now I'm going to share with you some components, and we're going to get into the details of the strategy. Timing is everything. And this is a perspective that we have as an agency, is that we look at things not from just giving history or wealth, but we really look at behaviors of donors, and we consider those to be extremely valuable. I've often said that I don't, knowing that somebody is rich is one thing, but knowing somebody's rich and interested is a different thing. And we think timing is so critical to that, and I want to explain what that means. In our models, typically throughout the years, organizations in the nonprofit space have been organizationally centric. They have basically planned out their schedule for communications, which you should. You've got a number of times you send direct mail and when you do calls and year-end work and all of that stuff is scheduled out. But that's organizationally centric. And there's a new paradigm. If you look at the way things work with corporations these days, like Uber, and you look at things like Amazon, your behavior and what your interests are and your engagement actually drives a lot of what they present to you. And so one of the things that Amazon doesn't do is they don't say March is electronics month. No. They actually present to you what you've searched before, what you've purchased before, what your activity is. And they actually are recommending things that are based on where you are, almost intent type of data. And that's real time and it's consumer centric. And so we believe that we know that there's an opportunity to be able to listen to the behavior of our donors and to be able to engage with them when the time is right. So behavior is absolutely critical. And I'm going to go drill into this. Behavior is an indication of a relationship. Many times, if you think about dating, right? Young people dating, which I'm not a young person or dating, but in the world of dating, if you were to speak to someone or call them and they didn't return your phone call, you probably learned something from that. The behavior of our donors is an indication of a relationship they have with us. And there's ways in which we can listen to that behavior really without the donor knowing about it. And it's classically how things happen on the web, which is we pay attention to what they're doing and we analyze that information to be able to make choices to provide them information or reach out to them. But this behavior that they have is an indication. Right, there's many times, and we'll be telling a story about this with Long Beach State, of a major professional athlete in baseball who, was really well known, very wealthy, but never engaged. They always tried to reach out to him, and how behavioral data stimulated an incredible opportunity to, propose something, beyond $1 million gift. And so we'll talk about those specific things as well. So what do we talk about with behavior is what we call digital engagement data. One of the things we're listening to is, you probably know this, but marketing automation software, giving automation software utilizes tracking of things, very simple things like website hits, email opens and clicks, survey responses, social activity. This all makes up essentially a profile of your activity. I'm going to make this really simple to understand. Let's say I had 10,000 emails, and I'm just focusing on email right now because it's easy to understand. If I sent out 10,000 emails over, one time a month over 24 months, so I got 24 messages that I sent out, and I had about 15% open rate on average and a 5% click rate. What the tools these days are doing is they're not just taking a snapshot of the data, like, oh, we sent a message in December and how did it do? They're actually aggregating it by the individual user. So we know how many of those, let's say Jason opened. Well, he might be user number 1 and he opened 22 out of the last 24. Well, if you looked at your data and you aggregated all of your email communications from the last 10 years together, you would find that there's a lot of people that are very engaged. They open up your messages, they click on them, they read them. And I equate this to, what if you knew who actually read your mail or who threw it away, right? Who didn't even open it or who opened it? Would you save that data and utilize it? Absolutely. Well, that's what's happening right now, not only with email communications, with all website and, specifically with specific types of content. And so the ability to track that user behavior and to understand when people are engaging is really, really important to be able to reach out to them. There's nothing like somebody watching a video that you've produced and you knowing that they've watched that all the way through and reaching out in a period of time, and they would probably say something like, you know what, I was just watching a video on your website the other day. And of course, you would have known that, and that's part of what directs and stimulates these types of engagement. But there are people on your file like user 2 who only maybe opened up maybe half or a little more. And then there's about 50% of your file, especially if you're in higher education, 50% of your file of email addresses that are good never open a single message. So wouldn't it be helpful to understand this digital engagement data to say, wow, these people are engaging with us, reading the communications, I probably want to utilize that data to prioritize who I talk to. So I've often said this in the major gift realm, is give me your portfolios and then give me all your email data. And I can tell you who you should be calling first, because they're already in your portfolio. You know that they're there. They've already been qualified. But just because they're rich doesn't mean they're interested. I'm going to give you the people who are actually engaged. And that's a big premise of what we're talking about, is utilizing real-time behavioral data to be able to direct your activities, to prioritize, and to be able to target. And so we have a specific example we'll walk through. But how do I identify who this segment is? Right? I'm not going to just send any sort of message to anyone to try to get them to raise their hand so I can talk to them about a major gift. Well, what we do and what we suggest you do is to really model the responder. And so this is an example. That little green triangle there, that's your major donor group. Let's say that's all the people that are in portfolios or people that are given over a certain dollar amount. We would model that group, but we utilize what we call a consumer cohort model. And this is pretty sophisticated, but it's not out of your reach at all. Some of you may be doing this. I'd highly recommend it. This is one example of experience data, which is called Mosaic USA. And they break down every consumer in the country based on one of these 71 different cohorts. And they have cute little names to it. Kids in cabaret, couples with clout, right? And they have a percentage on the far right. And this is a way in which we look at data to be able to build segments from a group of people who are look-alike audiences. So we model the major donors and we take them, look at their cohorts, and we draw a correlation, and we pick people not only from giving and wealth in that group. So here's a client example that we utilize. We took their entire data file of major donors and we broke them down based on these cohorts. And you can see this little graph here. What it turned into was 45% of all donors are from 5 consumer cohorts for this organization. Silver Sophisticates, Aging of Aquarius, American Royalty, Aging in Place, and Platinum Prosperity. Well, these are different cohorts for each organization based on what you do. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to say, I know I have data that says these are the type of people who give to our organization at this certain level. Now let me go down the pyramid into my list of, maybe it's mid-level donors. Maybe it's annual fund donors. And I would say this, the premise of what we're talking about is, do you think there are people who are capable and potentially interested in giving you a major gift, or talking about planned giving, or doing some sort of estate gift or legacy type of giving, who haven't given you over $1,000? I know for a fact there is, because a lot of times in order for an organization, especially a university, to know someone's on the radar, it's after they've made their first major gift. Very infrequently are they going down the file. And so our strategy about how do you acquire major donors is really about how do you prospect into your file and beyond, and draw people up and have them self-select, saying, I am very interested in connecting with you because what you're talking about, this vision resonates with me. And you're essentially giving them an opportunity to self-select and raise their hand. So this is a specific example. And so when you analyze that data, you're building your audience that you're going to be focusing on, not based on giving history, but by this consumer cohort and then your behavioral data. But lead generation, just getting somebody to raise their hand, is literally just the beginning. And you know this, raising major gifts is really about these 7 things. If you think about it like a funnel, lead generation is number 1, and that's the thing that we do to get ready. But we understand and recognize that major gift work is about connecting and building rapport with folks. It's building relationships. It's about listening. That's probably one of the most important things. It's about to the heart of the donor. It's about crafting and matching the giving options with the goals of the donor. It's about building a proposal that fits their needs, right? That they are actually working together. It's a bespoke type of program that's built custom for them in many cases, you know, and it definitely hangs off of the structure of your capital campaign and the priorities that you have. And then there's the getting the commitment or the agreement. And that's separate from actually collecting the check, which we all know in some cases is a challenge. And so what we're attempting to do, and what we've done over the years, is help identify future major donors who essentially have been hiding in the file. They're not the people who, you know, waved $100,000 and said, hey, look at me, I need attention. They're people who haven't had that opportunity because they really haven't been asked to step up. And so we've got some examples of how that fits together. But what I want to do is I want to have Jason Mitchell, he's going to share with us his experience with Operation Smile and a doctor named William McGee. Jason, I think you're there. If not, I'll unmute you here.
There we go. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, one of the greatest things about being a major gift fundraiser at Operation Smile for a period was getting to know and spend time with the brilliant and visionary founder, Dr. Bill McGee. And his story really quickly, he was a surgeon, still is a surgeon as far as I know, and he convinced a group of friends to go to Asia and to apply their skill at doing surgeries on kids with a cleft condition. And when they came back from that trip, they basically all said, we have to go back. And 30 plus years later, they were really confronting the reality of actually eradicating the cleft condition in 7+ regions around the world, which is just incredible. So when you sit in the room with Dr. McGee, I would challenge anybody on the phone to try not to give a major gift, because he's so visionary, so compelling, inspirational. He's an incredible storyteller because he's lived it. He's done surgeries all over the world. He's built this organization that's been so impactful around the world. But the problem is that he can't be in every room or every meeting, and especially with an organization with 1 million records in the database. I mean, this is a very successful fundraising organization that has an incredibly marketed brand. They have done a very good job at doing direct response, annual fund work, wrapping their narrative around a $240 surgery and having lots of people support that, or multiple surgeries in a year. But the issue we had on trying to develop a major gift fundraising unit there was, how do we leverage the integrity and the gravitas, if you will, of a founder like Dr. McGee, and grow the opportunities for a growing major gift team, and at the same time put a vision in front of people that was bigger than just another $240 surgery? How do we put a vision in front of a person that can say, would you like to contribute to healing the cleft condition in Vietnam? You know, that's the kind of thing that we attempted to tackle there. And I think that's some of the things that we'll address as this webinar continues.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. And so we put in on this slide, people don't scale well, and it's true. I mean, every major gift person would like to have the founder with them at every single meeting, and that's not possible. And so how do we help leverage and address this challenge of the fact that people don't scale well? And what we mean by that is, you know, it doesn't scale. You can't be in more than one place at one time. So let's talk about the power of the story. And this is where the vision piece comes together and what we recommend as far as the strategy. We've all heard that, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, well, then this is really fascinating. A Forrester study said if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 1.8 million words per minute, which I think is incredible. It's a Forrester study. I think it's really fascinating. I encourage you to take a look at this if you want to kind of make a case for video content. But we live in a culture that's driven by literally a timeline-based narrative, video, YouTube, television, all of that. And story is the way in which we share vision. But we've got the incredible ability with the tools that are available to you and to us to be able to craft narratives and say, you know, I don't have to just rely on what my major gift person can, what story they can tell, but we can literally capture and bring into a very compelling, vision where we can help someone like Dr. McGee become scalable, meaning literally through video type of content. And so that's been the anchor for a lot of the work that we do in the digital world to be able to identify future major donors. And we're going to walk through a specific example of that. And so Chris Taft from our staff and longtime development person is going to share with you an example of how we utilized this concept with Mississippi State University. Chris, are you there? Well, I will unmute you then. I think, if I can get a cursor to work here. Hang on one second, Chris. There we go.
All right, I think I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good. So yes, Mississippi State, great client of ours. Both Jason and I have worked with them over the years. And one of the things that they came to us with was a need to increase major donor contributions to a stadium renovation campaign that they had going on, project they had going on. So this was really in the early days of taking this approach and implementing it and learning from it and really kind of developing the best practices we're talking about today. So we put together a campaign for them. It was called the Davis Wade Stadium campaign. It included a Pearl mailer. If you notice in the bottom right of that image is what that looks like. And so we actually printed the donor's first name on the back of the chair, sent that through the mail, and we also sent an email campaign to go along with this that took them to a landing page with a really nice emotional video that really played on the history of that stadium. We had donors come and tell their stories, former student athletes come and tell their story of playing on the field, looking up into the stands. And so we sent that out and had a huge, enormous success, as you can see on the right-hand side. I think the key behind all of this is that essentially, I believe the stat was they went from 4 major gifts to 12 major gifts per month over 3 months while we were running this campaign. So what this really did was, because as a major gift officer, you only have so much time to reach out to so many people. And so we were able to broaden the net to send an invitation out to a larger group. And then based on those people that were essentially raising their hands saying, come talk to me, really, I would say increase, our ability to find people that are interested at the right time who are ready to make that decision. And that's what ultimately ended up with the result that you see in front of you.
And thank you, Chris. The other thing I want to share with you, I mentioned Long Beach State, and Chris may have some comments about this as well, but there are many scenarios in which we did what we called a major gift prospector. How do we help you identify people that are not currently in the major gift segment, that are interested, but have some sort of indication of high wealth or high net worth or giving history? And this is an extreme case, in my opinion. Mississippi State, they threw everything at everyone, right? 42,000 prospects and all that. And to be honest with you, when you have 1,500 people fill out a form and say, follow up with me, that's overwhelming. But Long Beach State, the Dirtbags, that's the name of their baseball team, they play on Blair Field. And Blair Field was being renovated. And they took a very small audience. I think it was 842 prospects that they wanted to connect with. They created an incredible message, and that's the vision messaging you see here is the video that communicates, why are we doing this? Why is it serious? Why do we want you to participate? And they sent this out to a group. Chris is going to tell you about a professional baseball player and how they connect with them. I think that's part of the context of this is that how do you utilize digital narrative to get people to raise their hand?
Yeah, I think that. I also think Long Beach State, and I also want to share a little bit about Happy Hill Farm too. Just illustrate that, obviously Mississippi State is a, top division school, the SEC. We had 42,000 prospects to send this out to. And so if you're not at that level, you're a smaller organization, maybe even not an athletics organization, you might be asking, will this work for me? And so what we have found is that you do not have to be a large organization because it is about casting that vision and that message to your audience and to prospective donors as well. So this is a tool to really, we're talking major donor acquisition. It's to get it out to new people who you're talking with, people you'd like to talk with, and there's different ways that we can help to do that. But for Long Beach State, so we started with 800 prospects. We only did email, so we did not send out a Pearl mailer along with that. And we ended up with 35 people filling out a form asking for a conversation. And then an additional probably 100 people watching the video multiple times, visiting the landing page multiple times, giving us those clues that I'm interested, I'm engaging with your content, give me a call. But one of the keys was they had a significant major donor prospect that they had been trying to reach for months, and had been unable to get on his schedule for a meeting. And he saw the video and he answered the form, and I had a comments form that we added into the page. And in the comment box, he wrote back to them, "I'd like to know more about your long-term plan." And so this donor who they were looking for, in case of this campaign, as a gift to help with the baseball field, was asking, I want to do even more. I want to know more about what is the vision for the athletic department at the institution. And so I think that vision piece of this is very important, because that's what donors are looking for, and that's what they want to support. They want to know, how is my gift going to change the lives of student athletes in this case, uplift the community with a brand new baseball field in this case, whatever that might be. And it also shows that, this can scale from small orgs to large orgs. One other thing real quick. So I did mention Happy Hill Farm. We're running this type of approach for them right now. And they're not athletics, they're not higher ed. They're an underprivileged school, a Christian school where they take underprivileged kids, and they have a boarding component to what they do. They let them come out there in Granbury, Texas, live on this beautiful farm, get a great education with the goal of changing their lives and changing the trajectory of their families' lives through these children that they're raising. And they're about a $3 million annual donor contributions for their organization. So not huge. And we're running this campaign for them right now. And we're having people respond to the message, which is allowing them to know, who do I need to go and talk to right now to really build that relationship with, and ultimately help move us from a 3 million to a 5 to a 10. And so it can work for many different types of organizations.
Chris, thank you very much. And this isn't rocket science. I mean, you think about this, you're utilizing kind of a mass communication vehicle to communicate vision and let people self-select. And so you open that up to a wider audience, you're strategic about how you build that segment, and you will get people who will raise their hand. And in many cases with major gifts, because so few people make such a big difference when it comes to major giving, I mean, you could have success by getting 1 or 2 people. And so that's what's great about it. I think the challenge, though, is people, one, have not set vision and planning appropriately to be able to engage somebody that is a significant major donor. And that's obviously with certain types of organizations. But casting vision raises big dollars, need raises small. And if you want to leverage those type of things, you've got to have a big vision. I had a mentor who said, if you can dream it, we can fund it. The problem is you don't dream big enough. And I think that's often what we face. So let's talk about specifics now. We're going to take the rest of our time to really talk about, how do I do this? And we share this information with you. We're not suggesting you have to work with us. You can do this type of thing yourself, but we can help you as well. But I want to share with you literally, how does it work? And so the challenge is, how do you identify and activate the next generation of major donors? And the focus of this is, we want to empower a high capacity, high interest prospect to self-identify, so raise their hand, through the strategic use of capital campaign messaging. So in some cases, you're not in capital campaign, but you've got vision. But many organizations that we work with are going into campaign. They've built the campaign priorities. They've built their committee. They've done these type of things, and they want to get this message out and help broaden the net as much as they can. And usually this is in the public phase of a capital campaign, right before. And so this is what we call self-identification. And the solution looks like this. There's an audience, and we're going to get into some really cool, I think, strategies that will really be helpful to you. This bubble here represents your entire universe of people. And what I mean by that is everything from fans and friends and followers. This is people that you don't even have contact information in your database. And so this group of people, and we've seen this many, many times. University of Oklahoma had a neighbor in Norman who would walk his dog on the campus every single day. And he made a huge planned gift to them, never graduated there, just lived next door. They didn't have him in the database. And, he passes away and the attorney calls and they've got this huge gift. There are people that are not in your database who care about what you're doing. And so how do you reach out to those people? So we even look at that audience. The second in this blue box, this is your database. And let's say you've got about, approximately 100,000 records. And so I kind of broke this up into about 65,000 of those are non-donors. And this blue area is your database. The gray area is your universe. Let's say in that group, you've got about 25,000 that are lapsed. They've given, at some point in the history. And then you've got about 10,000 donors. So about 10% are actually active, let's say the last 18 to 24 months. This is kind of a typical mid-tier university, for example. But this gives you kind of an example of what do things really look like. So when I talk about donors, I'm talking about probably less than 10,000 people. I've got maybe 25,000 that have ever given, and then I've got this huge group of non-donors, and then I've got friends and fans. We want, well, and if you even take a subset of that group, typically, I have 1,080 here of major donors that are in a portfolio. So an organization this size might have 5 to 8 major gift wraps, and they have maybe 100 to 150 prospects in their portfolios. When you see this visually and you see that basically a campaign is going to be focused on this small group of people, that they want to get about 250 people engaged out of this whole universe of people. And the question I ask is there anybody that's a lapsed donor who hasn't given at this threshold of major donors, that's not in a portfolio? What if we were to take that group of people, and this is an example we did for Louisiana Tech University, they're starting their Forever Loyal campaign, and take the vision messaging for their capital campaign and take a subset of people that we know look like our major donors but are not in portfolios. They may not even be current donors for that fiscal year, and share a vision with them and ask them, would you like to connect with someone to talk about these campaign priorities or this vision? And so you're utilizing the message to get people to raise their hand. And what it does is, and this is how we do it, is that if you look at the very top of this bubble, you see the website. We use a tracking pixel across our clients' websites to track everything from IP addresses and then drop a cookie on that user's machine to be able to see what they're doing. And this is very common website tracking like Google Analytics, for example. But we utilize a giving automation solution, which is a marketing automation tool. And so anytime emails are sent, we're not only seeing the opens and the clicks, but at what they do on the website. We track how far people make it through videos. We see social posts that we put out in a campaign, go back to a website, and we watch that. And then we look at the things that reach out to friends and fans. And that's what we call influence ads and retargeting ads. Influence ads are mobile as well as desktop related video and banner type of ads that are getting people to see and impress upon them outside of the database. So being able to, anyone that's interested that fits into a certain geography or a certain demographic, or reaching beyond the database to be able to track people into this campaign vision and message. And then once they come to that website and we drop that cookie, we can retarget them wherever they go on the web. And you've seen that many, many times, I'm sure. But what it means is at the bottom of this slide is really where it gets exciting. When you track that behavior, you can aggregate it and know a lot about who your donors are. You can prioritize by looking at the people that are more active than less active. And then you can also have notifications that are sent to you when somebody reaches a certain threshold. We like to then, based on that information, send out specific dynamic segments to move them out in and out of different segments, to share communication sequences with them. Let's say somebody's clicking and looking at information related to estate planning. We're going to probably want to get them into that plan giving sequence. And so we utilize these 5 key areas in order to engage with the largest possible audience we can. But what we end up doing is we provide creative services, but we use it in this strategy. Digital marketing, which is email, online ads, and retargeting, as well as social media, leads to a major gift officer microsite. We, a lot of times with universities, will have a specific landing page for each gift officer, and they actually are recording bumpers on the campaign video that say, hey, I'm Matt Frazier, I'm your major gift officer, take a look at this video and I'll be back. I'd love to connect with you. After the video's over, they come back and say, hey, please fill out the form, let's connect. We got some exciting things happening. And so major gift officers intros and outros, campaign videos, and then a form that requests more information. I want to connect with you. Then we do behavioral tracking. We look at the opens, the clicks, and then we actually look at how far people made it through the video. And we monitor it every 10%, so 10 through 90%, and then finish of how far they've made it through. And of course, the form submissions. And then this is where it gets really exciting. And this is what I think you need to take down as notes. The concept of donor concierge. And if you know a concierge, we're going to talk a little bit about that, is somebody that's giving personal attention, but they're an advocate, they're a facilitator. They are professional people on the phone who are actually facilitating where this needs to go. And there's some response triage. And the triage concept comes from the medical world, where if I go into the emergency room because I've got a cut and you come in behind me with chest pain, you're probably going to get in faster than me because they're triaging based on severity, right? Well, in the donor world, if somebody fills out a form, does that mean they want to make $1 million gift right now? It doesn't. It may be somebody saying, well, I filled out the form because you asked me to, right? And that's not as relevant. We'll talk about the strategies for donor concierge, but this is a critical component. We have learned over the years, we can create opportunities for organizations to have conversations with major gift folks. Problem is, if we give them too many, they don't follow up with them. And so this donor concierge concept is either insourced, you do it yourself, or you outsource it. But what happens is everyone gets a touch after they complete that form. But the nice thing about a donor concierge service is that you can go even further into and call people that may not have filled out the form, but completed the entire video. And so you're diving further in, and you're not distracting the major gift officers. They're busy and they only want really, really hot leads. The last thing is the dashboard. We provide a dashboard view, a management view, a major gift officer view, and as well as some accountability tools. And that is basically undergirded by technology. And I won't go into that right now because it's not as relevant to this. But I want to show you this as a slide of how it works. So we got email, social, we're attracting folks through ads and targeting. And so here our little farmer is our donor, goes to the landing page. We track that behavior and see what's happening, how far it made it through. If that form is completed, an SMS message will go to the appropriate gift officer, and the donor concierge will call and do triage. Basically say, how hot is this lead, if you will. That information then goes to our good friend Brooks on a dashboard, and then the gift officer gets a calendar invite to meet with that person. And we believe that this is paving the last mile for how do you take something that's digital, utilizing vision, and turn it into actual appointments for gift officers. And it doesn't take many major gifts to really move the needle. And so we want to bring strategies and solutions to folks to say, hey, you can do this. We've done this before, but we want to provide ways in which you can make it simple. We talked about segmentation. Segmentation to get the highest possible result to the request to visit with a gift officer. And so we do a donor response modeling process. I mentioned before, we model your major and planned donors. We establish a lookalike audience through consumer cohort data. We look at wealth information. In this case, it was for a university, college units, plan giving prospects, and then location-based targeting. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but it doesn't have to be this sophisticated. And then the last thing I think is really important. If I called you, you filled out a form or you watched a video and I called you and I said, hi, my name is Matt Frazier. I'm from XYZ university or organization, and I am your donor concierge. I guarantee the donor would go, what in the world is that? But when you hear the word donor concierge, you don't think of a student caller trying to get $500 from you. You see somebody who says, hey, I'm here. Thank you for completing the form. Thank you for spending time to engage with our campaign message. I'd like to help you connect. What would you like to do? How would you, and I can actually facilitate an appointment getting set up with the right or appropriate gift officer and be able to connect you with the right person. So having someone that's in the service, right, that gives incredible service, they're not trying to take something, they're not trying to get something, they're trying to facilitate something. And I think this concept of donor concierge, coupled with either an in-house phone program or staff members inside, or you outsource it, is a really powerful tool to be able to do donor triage very quickly, because timing is everything. When they complete that form, you need to be on top of it. And so what that looks like as far as donor concierge service is all prospects that self-identify receive a courtesy call to evaluate their interests and needs. And so we suggest that the donor concierge does one of three things: schedules a visit with an appropriate gift officer, actual schedule, it gets on a calendar. Two, if they're not interested in meeting, we secure some sort of leadership gift. Okay, so these are gifts probably $2,500 to $25,000. And then if they're not interested in either one of those, we're securing permission to communicate further. So the things that we can learn by utilizing, essentially, we're creating an inbound scenario where somebody raises their hand and we immediately call them. And that people are impressed when you call them within 5 minutes of them completing the form. And so that's the concept of the donor concierge and the 3 goals that we have for that program. And then we create a dashboard. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of this, but we have a dashboard that basically shows by gift officer. And we do this for larger groups that have multiple gift officers so that they can understand, how is this going? How many people have made it through the video? How far have they gone through? Those type of things. And actually, I'm gonna see if this will pop up and click here. Yeah, so this is an example of a dashboard for Louisiana Tech where it actually shows how many people have made it through, how many page hits, you know, who are the people that fill it out, and then the gift officer behavior. And we think that that's an important thing to do. Let me go back here, and I'm going to open things up for questions because I'm sure there's probably quite a few. I really appreciate you taking the time, especially during the holidays here, to hear this strategy. We've had a lot of good success with this program. We continue to make it better with adding things like the donor concierge. But if I can summarize all of this into one thing, I would say define and plan big vision. Dream as big as you can. There are people within your organization that are dying to hear the opportunities to transform the lives of people that you serve. And you know, I know it's limited budgets and all those things. It's hard to not be pragmatic. It's hard to not, you know, dream a little bit. But I will say there's an opportunity for you to engage people. And I think you'd be surprised that there are people that have been sitting on your file who haven't had the right opportunity or the right story or the right vision to engage with you in a significant way. So I'm going to open up for questions. Let me know. I'm going to also look at the chat function. If you are a little bit shy, we can do it through the chat. But I'm going to unmute everyone if I can figure out how to do that. So hang on one second.
You are unmuted.
All right, hang on. If you can, I've unmuted everyone. So go ahead and mute yourself if you're not going to ask a question. And if you're someone that's going to ask a question, feel free to leave it open. But we might get some feedback on some folks now that you're all opened on your mic. So any questions out there? Yeah, go ahead and mute yourself if you're not going to ask a question. Any questions out there? Feel free to also put that in the chat window if you'd like, if you got any questions. Thank you so much. If you don't have any questions, we're done with this. If you'd like to get the slides from this, feel free to email me. I'm matt@fzf.email. If you'd like to get the slides from this, we'd be happy to send those to you. But thank you so much for participating, and I'll stick around for a couple more minutes for questions.
No.
We got trains, we got everything going on in the background. Any questions before I shut it down? Have a great holiday season. Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for taking the time. Hopefully we got you out of a holiday party. Have a great break. Thanks everyone.